It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports, stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me meat?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Good play the ball! Good play the ball! Yeah!
Alrighty, well, a very, very, very happy Tuesday evening, I would say, and welcome to the throw-in. My name is Justin. Welcome back to another year of sports conversations here on the program. I know. So there's a lot that has happened over the past the year, and just I want to welcome everyone to a new year, 2024. I want to welcome everyone to kind of a revamp, a refresh start. Last year, I think we kicked off pretty well, beginning this podcast back up and running on our channel. We kind of broke off just a little bit throughout the course of the year, try to pick it back up right before football season started. Last episode I actually did was back on, I have to say, September 15th of last year. And that was because, as a matter of fact, there was a couple of things that were going on throughout the last several months that led me into having a, kind of taking a leave of absence, I would so to speak. I actually took those last few weeks in preparation as my son was born October 3rd, which was just a blessing to have, blessing to go through, great stuff. And then, I was thinking about, can I start this show back up again a couple weeks later? But I was adjusting to the new schedule, baby schedule. I was also trying to figure out, all right, what time can I possibly do a program for you guys that just simply does not have any distractions, whether it's dealing with stuff with the family, whether it's dealing with, the new baby cry and whatnot. And then I had my surgery in November. And my surgery in November, I had a fusion done. For those who have not, for the viewers who are the first time listeners of this program, or you haven't paid attention, I haven't been more open with you guys. I had a spinal fusion done a couple years ago. I had a lumbar discectomy done on my L5 S1 back. That was back in 2021. Well, apparently that surgery didn't work out. Got hurt again at work and been out of work since, mid-October of 2022, I believe. And I know it's been that long. But so I've been out of work since then, and we finally came to the conclusions that we were going to have a spinal surgery. So I had a fusion done where they kind of go in through the front, open up your area, and insert like a little cage-like, contraption between your L5 and S1 vertebrae. And then, so I've been still recovering from that surgery. I actually spent an entire week at the hospital, came home, and the surgery is having its ups and downs. I most certainly, but it was, so I'm still recovering, but I was like, listen, I'm caught in a catch-22. I have a lot of family-oriented goals that need to be achieved and need to be maintained throughout the course moving forward, just moving forward in general. Um, and there's a lot more, requirements. There's a lot more commitments that I'm making that has put this show on the back burner, I would say. Well, then I come around and it's like I listen to sports shows and I watch sports all the time, and it's like this is what I enjoy doing. Okay. And I just noticed that the date of the show is incorrect, so I will change that. So if you're watching this, it will be updated. But unfortunately, at the time of this live video, the edit of the show, so we kind of go through all of this, and I'm just like I can't miss out. I have to do a program. So talking with the wife, who's been a big supporter of this program, has all right, what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. And we came to the conclusion that if this is going to work, it has to be at a time where there's no interruptions, because I just don't know a show off of a recording where I could go put 15 minutes into it and then step away and then put another 15 minutes into it. I just know from start to go, from here to finish. So we came up with the conclusion that a late night show is what is insisted in order to maintain my credibility. And so we're starting back up. It's going to be late night, Monday through Fridays, 10 to midnight, unless something comes up where we have to change ourselves. But that should hopefully fix itself. So there is a new jolt of energy, new inspiration moving forward, that is excited. So that's kind of been the backstory for the last 3 months, and I'm just ready to go. Last year we kicked things off with a bang, and there's a lot of sports news right now that just continue to kick things off, and especially as we get into in our opening segments, in our number one, was the big, massive return from a former WWE champion. This was a issue statement by Triple H, who made this post or tweet or Instagram post, I don't know, over the weekend. And it got a lot of people wondering exactly what it was that he was, issuing, or what he was saying. Well, we were in for a nice treat, especially since all the thoughts and comparisons and this and that, yada, yada, yada. It was nowhere near what the fans on social media were exclaiming. So we will get down and talk about that early on in our program. But we got to talk about something that, honestly, to me, and I just put up the wrong one. This is going to be the whole contribution. And I don't know if you noticed, but something that I think we're going to kind of just also work on doing is take a step back in putting a lot out on the screen. I kind of want to make these videos just more simple and getting straight to you guys. I'm talking about sports, and instead of having to worry about videos and this and that, left and right, just make it nice and simple. It gives me time throughout the day to kind of get a show ready. So I'm excited. So I do want to address something that has been developed over the past few weeks that has been very disturbing, very unsettling, and very, to me, it touches me in so many ways. So if you've listened to this program in the past, you kind of understand a little bit of my background and how I have created a passion for this and where is all that came from. And so briefly, born and raised in San Diego, I grew up on a handful of guys. I grew up on radio guys. Okay, I grew up on, the play-by-play commentators of the San Diego Padres. Jerry Coleman, Ted Leitner, You know, I also grew up a lot on Coach John Quintero, a guy who I would say the provided the most inspiration, especially today. He's called. He called many games. Of he's played, lived, born and raised in San Diego. He's coached in San Diego. He's started his career in San Diego and in the radio broadcast booth. He's done a lot, and he's kind of what I think San Diegans would call him a the the voice of San Diego in a sense. And the reason why I say that is because he does deeply, he has a show over the last 10 years, whether it was with Mighty 1090 or 97.3, the fan radio station out there. He has given the voice to the fans. He has always listened to the fans. He has always done things for the fans, and and he's really just downright, hey, let's get to the hot topics. Let's ask the hard, tough questions because we want to know answers. Well, John Quintero, he's been running, pregame shows for the Padres. He's been running the postgame shows. He's been doing, he's done a lot over his time. He's been on 97.3 The Fan. You can listen to him on audio, Odyssey, or anywhere you listen to audio platforms. Well, this last couple of weeks, I want to say it was like December 20th or so. It was reported that 97.3 and John Quintero would part ways. And this kind of came all of a abrupted, scenario for everyone. I mean, I came as a shock. I'm going to say I almost teared up, in a sense, because this is the guy that you go out and you listen to on a daily basis. All right, let's remind you that he's a 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. guy who'd come on the radio for 4 hours of the day and give you nothing but content, allow you the fans, whether you're a Padres fan, whether you're a Charger fan, whether you are an Aztec fan, you jump on the radio, you give your thoughts, and you can say anything you want, and either Coach was going to agree with you or he was going to disagree with you. But either way, you were going to get a conversation out of him, and you were going to get an authentic conversation out of him. I remember I met the guy once in my life, and it was actually a strange meeting. I met the guy under the circumstances. He's called a lot of high school football games, a lot of playoff games in the past. And one of the games that I was back in, I want to say it was 2009. And it was a Mira Mesa High School. Okay. It was freshman year. I was just getting into with the athletic director at the time and kind of saying, hey, listen, I think it would be cool, besides the band playing, if you had some extra music around. And I had this, system set. I had this back when they had iTunes, so you had to purchase music. I got a chance to, I had a list, and I just thought, listen, I'm kind of more of an old school music guy, so a little bit, appropriate, but I'm with the, players every day. I'm chatting them up. I know, I'm playing football myself as a freshman year. So I'm like, I kind of know, I could get a little bit of information, what type of music they like, what kind of pumps them up during warm up and stuff before the band starts playing. And so I created a playlist, and I'd go up to the press box during the game and kind of help out. And it was one of the playoff games. It was a big night, and sitting right next to me the entire game was Coach John Quintero calling the ball game. And I just think that was incredible. I got a chance to shake his hand, got a chance to say hi to him, got a chance to talk to him. And I understand that we're having this conversation as maybe a little bit as if he, something more severe has happened. He's fine. He is healthy. I just watched a video on YouTube that I will finish watching a little bit later that was posted up 3 hours ago. It's called the PPR podcast number 148, John Quintero. This was posted up 4 hours ago, 110 views, and he's kind of just giving everybody an update of where he's at. So I also listened to a radio show on 97.3 The Fan called Ben and Woods. They are a early morning radio show, and I got a chance to listen because I always want to I always want to know the truth behind these stories. So, you know, Ben and Woods had their boss on. His name is Adam Klug. In a way that 97.3, the Fan and Adam Klug was explaining this was that there was a decision not by the Padres, not by colleagues, but by the actual station management itself, that they were going to decide to move on from the midday radio station, and they were going to find something else to replace it with, something that could be a little bit more entertaining, maybe a little bit more enthusiastic. So somewhere in the middle of October, 97.3 The Fan and Coach kind of had a meeting, said, hey, listen, we're going to depart ways with you towards the end of the year. And as the year digressed and we get towards the end of the year, the last week of the shows were coming up before their holiday vacation. And apparently, when Coach made the announcement, obviously fans were not happy. And they, for some reason, caused them to cancel their very last show, which was Friday. It was like December 22nd. And Coach didn't get a chance to do a farewell show. It was just canceled. And so, from my understanding, there was an opportunity for Coach to join a weekend broadcast on the station, but he turned it down for bigger opportunities. I don't know. So I'm covering the story because this is, really dear for me. I think it's heartbreaking. I think it's touching because, in my opinion, we sit here, this is a guy that I think has touched the fans for decades on the radio, which is a hard thing to do. He was the number one, he ranked number one in his categories in San Diego, and it's really hard. Radio stations are very difficult. And he could do it not only by him, he could do it himself. So there was a lot of inspiration. So it touches me just a little bit because I looked up to him, and to see him now away from the radio right now, up in the air about what he's able to do, what it comes his way. We don't know the future. He just turned 65 this past year, and technically, I guess he's able to retire, but I'm sure he does not want to retire. So that's kind of my take on Coach John Quintero. If you haven't heard of him, go to one of his episodes on All Audio Podcast. You can search his name on Google. He well-known, well-decorated gentleman. And you check out some of his work. And we wish him the absolute best on the program. All right. First segment is out of the way. Let's get into the big sports, and we'll talk about coming up here after the break. We'll talk about the big news coming out of the WWE that happened Monday night. If you haven't known, spoiler alert coming up ahead. You guys are listening to the Throw-In right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, if you guys are just tuning in, welcome back. Happy New Year's. Hopefully, everyone had a safe holiday, a wonderful and safe holiday, whether it was Christmas, Hanukkah, and this New Year. 2424 here is underway. I got that changed in the title. I know I was dealing with that. Hey, you guys got to bear with me as I get back into the swing of things and adjust to our new nightly program here. Well, I want to give a big shout out and talk about some incredible people over at StreamYard, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. Thanks to StreamYard Studios, we can create episodes and podcasts such as The Throw-In. Check out StreamYard.com for their free version today. Also like to give a big shout out, to Epidemic Sound. Create music. I forgot the reading on this. Oh gosh. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. Check out their free option today at epidemicsound.com. I will get that correct again. It's been a while here. Also like to give out Spreaker.com from representing iHeartRadio. If you miss any of these episodes here this afternoon or this week, be sure to check out all of our episodes on audio platforms thanks to Spreaker. If you have a podcast and you're looking to upload them onto audio platforms, check out Spreaker.com. Also like to do a big last one. Change some of the, I really did change the video packages for our little breaks that we've implemented. I nothing wrong against the old ones we had, but something more simple, just complex. Hey, we're on a break. Take a moment. I will say that majority of all of our breaks are 3 minutes and above, according to what I can see here on StreamYard. Like the first one was 3 minutes 50 seconds. I got another one coming up, maybe an hour number 2 at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Otherwise, you got 305, 310, 344, 354. So 3 to 4 minutes are our little break in between segment sessions to kind of take a step back, go use the restroom, go grab a drink. Let's reset our brains and reset the clock for the next round of conversations here. Talking about, and we're just doing a lot of PR stuff here early on, talking about all these stuff that, everything that we have going on. Like I said, you guys are watching us on our YouTube channel. Please be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Don't forget to have those notifications on so that when we have another episode coming up, you do not miss it. You don't want to miss out. 2, we're also going live on Facebook, you guys. So if you're on our Facebook page and you're following us, thank you. But be sure to head on over to our YouTube page, follow us over there. And if you miss anything, okay, of our shows, you go back and we watch it. Well, I mentioned our audio. So after the program, whether it's tonight, whether it's first thing in the morning when I wake up, I'm uploading this episode to our StreamYard, to our Spreaker account, which then goes out there and distributes all of this. Let me just get back into it. So it will distribute. Let me see where we're going. Here we go. There we go. Audio. I want to give you the accurate information. So distribution. So our podcast is on Spreaker, okay? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. You could also find us on Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and Geosoft. Great website if you're looking to, if you're looking to to upload podcasts. But what I like so much about it is that if you listen, all the description, all the information is down in the description below. But here's one thing that's better. The TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel has its webpage. It's called the TNC Sports Talk Show. www.TNC Sports Talk Show. We could find all the blogs, all the videos, all the audio content, everything related, all the announcements coming your way up on the website. So make sure to check that out. And so we'll get better at this. I promise you. It's the new year. We got to find our groove. It's been well over 2.5 months since I last did an episode, and I think we just got to give a little bit of time, a little bit of credit. Nothing like a good cup of Dunkin' Donuts. Spending Christmas time with the wife and the family. Got the wife a few things. We got a new microwave. We got some pots and pans, and we ended up. She's been eyeballing a Keurig. We've been going off of coffee pots, and one thing you learn about a coffee pot takes I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to brew a cup of coffee. Well, get those Keurigs and those pods. You get like 22 pods for like $16 at Walmart. But we like Dunkin', so we go to Dunkin' and we get those pods. And the one thing I discovered is that really takes matters of less than 2.5 minutes to pour some coffee. So 10 o'clock at night when I'm getting up with the baby once a night, because she takes the first half, I take the second, and I'm up usually at 6 or 7 o'clock anyways. And push yourself to be up throughout the day, and then come on and do this night. One of my biggest fears is not having enough energy or being awake for the next 2 hours. And I promise you, this isn't a PR read or anything. This isn't an advertisement, but I'm sure this cup of coffee from Dunkin', the Dunkin' brand is working pretty well to get me through the night. Like I said, all this is just trying to find my groove, getting back into the swing of things. All right, let's address the big blockbuster news that came out of last night. If you did not get a chance to watch Raw, I will advise you to pause, to go back and rewatch the opening of this program, and then skip this when you're done, because FYI, it's a spoiler alert. Well, as I mentioned to you guys, Triple H over the weekend said, hey, I got a former WWE champion coming back to the WWE on Monday Night Raw. He didn't confirm it. Well, he didn't deny it either. And what we saw here was we went through the show, which was a good show, and we'll talk about that throughout the course of this week. But we go through the show, and I think to end hour number 2, to kick off hour number 3, we see WWE comes back from break. And what's interesting, okay, so I'll give you a little bit of spoiler alert for tomorrow. My brother Ryan, he's been on this program once before. He's actually expected to actually come on tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to having him, because I want to talk about this more in depth tomorrow, because he was actually there. Raw was actually held in San Diego, California, my hometown, and it's just when WWE goes to your hometown, you don't live in your hometown. I just find myself having to tune in. Anyways, all right. So I'm just digressing, getting off topic. So we're in San Diego. Raw's in San Diego. They have all these matches. We're waiting for the moment for where the former WWE champion makes his return. And social media took over the weekend saying, hey, I predict Batista's going to return. I predict Andrade El Idolo who is going to return. So and so. And as I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, Batista. And left and right, I saw Batista. Dave Batista is going to return. And I'm like, Dave Batista, didn't he retire from wrestling? His last match was against Triple H. Would he come back to maybe, the only possible way I could see him coming back is to announce that hey, I'm retired. I'm going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame, which I haven't seen WWE start introducing the Hall of Famers this year, this early on in the year. So, we're rambling through the heads, and Samantha Irvin announces, hey, the returning from, the former WWE champions returning, and Jinder Mahal's music plays, and there comes down Jinder Mahal, and just the shock on the fans' face in the arena. Everyone got up on their feet and from cheering to booing in 2.5 seconds. I just, that was, I think, just the biggest tease that anyone could give. Trust me on this. Trust me. I've seen some teases in the past, but surely enough, you know what, the WWE has got us good. Even the fans, I was a bit disappointed. You know, my brother actually FaceTimed me right before, during that commercial break, because, you know, prior to that, because, you know, I wanted him to show me that he was at Raw. So anyway, so Jinder Mahal goes off of this rant saying that, you know, how terrible America is, that America should, you know, just, you know, should all view him because is what a true American should be. And Jinder Mahal, you got to give Jinder some credit. I don't think enough people are talking about what Jinder Mahal did last night to really work up a crowd and get a crowd against him so deeply. Like, in the scenario, he didn't need to build up the hype that deep to introduce the returning suit, you know, to have someone special come out. And we'll get to that in a second. But you got to acknowledge what he did, because if it was anybody else, because Jinder Mahal got to the point talking to the fans that it could have been Spike Dudley and the fans would have blew the roof off the place, because someone, it could have been anybody. I mean, dude, you could have had Alberto Del Rio show back up just in a theoretical, you know, statement, and he would have been, everyone would have went head over heels because someone's coming to shut up Jinder Mahal. But Jinder Mahal did such a great job at hyping the fans up, getting them to the point where they hate, and then just a pause, and The Rock's music hits, and we hear, and the roof is just electrifying. We already know that The Rock, whenever The Rock comes out, whenever Dwayne Johnson comes out, people shut up, people listen, people explode off in a stand up and pay homage to him. He holds that type of magnitude and that type of power in his hands. I think it was just a bit more sweet, you know, to have to come interrupt, you know, the modern day Maharaja. And what's fun is too, is that, you know, listen, then The Rock comes down to the ring and he goes on this rant for about 5 minutes, how America is great, that, you know, he's calling, you know, Jinder a day one douchebag, and, you know, you'd have to go, you know, excuse me, you'd have to go rewatch it on Raw or on YouTube. You can find a clip on YouTube where, you know, The Rock goes and sings the ending, you know, a little cover up to Jinder, about Jinder, of the, you know, from the representing Star Spangled Banner, and you know, ends up giving him the people's elbow. Jinder rolls out of the ring, and it's what The Rock says next as he ends the segment, I think, is what is the bigger conversation coming out of this week. Hands down, ends of this week. We will get to that when we come back from our break. Heading to the bottom of the hour, we'll talk about what The Rock said. I actually play you the audio clip of what The Rock said, and we will have that open discussion. If you haven't heard it, like I said, I suggest you guys to pause this until later, until you actually see what happens. But the segment itself, before I go to break, I just want to talk a little bit about the segment. Because the segment itself, I tell you how great Jinder Mahal did, because he really did a fantastic job. Dwayne Johnson never seems to disappoint, although I think, if it was my opinion, they just dragged it on a little too much. You were trying to kind of put together an ending, because you knew Dwayne wasn't coming out saying a couple words and that was it. He was coming out and he was going to lay the rock bottom or the people's elbow on Jinder some way or somehow. Trying to get to that point A to point B for The Rock seemed a bit difficult until you finally, okay, now it makes sense. This is what he's going to lead to. He implemented it into the song. That would be the only thing I changed. The promo was a bit long. Probably all of it wasn't necessary. They did pay homage to the late great the Iron Sheik, which was much appreciated, because that's Iron Sheik is one of those legends, man. But all right, let's just cut to it. Let's take a break. Let's come back and let's review the audio and talk about what The Rock said at the very end after he laid the people's elbow on Jinder Mahal. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
San Diego, I love you. Happy New Year. No, by the way, one more thing. Tonight, after all this ass kicking, The Rock is going to go out in San Diego. I'm a little hungry. I'm going to go get something to eat. When The Rock goes out to get something to eat tonight in San Diego, should The Rock sit in a booth? Or should The Rock sit at the bar? Yeah, The Rock loves a bar too. Or should The Rock sit at the head of the table?
Alrighty, well, there you have it. You have The Rock officially teasing, I would say, a match with Roman Reigns, asking the fans in San Diego if he should sit at the head of the table when he goes out to eat. I love Pachango Arena. I grew up and it was, the arena that I grew up. It is also very difficult. Not many state arenas that the WWE performs in does not have one of those Titantron ribbons where you could have the Raw, the logos and whatnot, running around. So it was a bit awkward seeing Raw in San Diego, but somewhat brings back so many memories and so many great ones too when you get a chance to see Edge and The Undertaker in a TLC match for the World Heavyweight Championship at, I want to say it was like One Night Stand or something like that. But the challenge has been set, no? The Raw, and the bigger question is, could we finally see Roman and The Rock? And this was this was actually kind of has developed and unformed over the last year. We, according to sources, okay, there was a statement that was made by Dwayne Johnson weeks back. I think it was on one of the college football game days, where he's sitting there and he's basically saying that there was a brief conversation about The Rock, Roman Reigns, WrestleMania. There was like one or two conversations held, but that was it. There was nothing else really ever done about it. And, the last couple of years, we kept on asking ourselves as the bloodline kept on growing, are we seeing Rock, Reigns, Mania? Is that the only venue that they could possibly perform at other than maybe either Survivor Series or SummerSlam? So to kick off 2024, just like we kicked off 2023, would the fans like to see Rock, Roman one-on-one in a match? Yes. Do we have a better chance at seeing Rock, Roman in a singles match under the power of Triple H? Absolutely. And just the fact that The Rock teased that last night, I don't know where they're at among negotiations. I think we've established a few things last year, was that The Rock needs time to prepare. There's a difference between being in shape and being in ring shape. And what I saw last night, okay, and this is how the beatdown went. The Rock was done singing. Jinder Mahal then attacks The Rock, pushing him over into a corner, giving him a couple of kicks to the stomach, a couple of punches. And then The Rock turns around and counters everything. They kind of mingle in the center of the ring for a brief moment before The Rock then gives them a power bomb. lifts him up, brings him down. Then he sets up, away from the camera, by the way, the rock bottom and hits that perfectly. He jumps back on the microphone, and you could tell that he's winded. Just as bad as me climbing up 3 flights of stairs right now because I'm out of shape because I'm recovering from back surgery. Is The Rock capable, and this is going to be the big question, I think, is The Rock capable of getting back into a wrestling ring shape where he can endure a typical, and you're probably asking yourself, 10, 15, 20-minute match that may or may not include outsiders? I don't know. That is going to be a legitimate question asking down the road. But I can tell you, I'm more confident that if we're going to see this match, is going to happen soon. Now, I was going to wait to continue to bring these conversations up, and I want to hear other ideas about the possibility of when and where this match will take place. But I kind of want to briefly just kind of point out something I saw earlier today that makes sense in a way, because if you see Rock and Roman at Mania, and you still know that Cody in the back, in the back burner has his eyes at completing this circle of earning a title shot. What I saw was there are rumors and speculations that Dwayne Johnson will be where Elimination Chamber is going to be in 8 weeks. So hypothetically, could we see Roman The Rock at Elimination Chamber, and then Cody winning the Elimination Chamber, going on to face and defeating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? Like I said, just all hypothetical. I wouldn't see it as unrealistic. But see, I'm putting together a dream match of Roman and The Rock, which we also know the timing of the feud is ticking down. Both men are getting up in the age. Roman Reigns is losing, I think, his credibility. And I'll get more into that either tonight or on a later episode. But I feel as if this is a do or die moment, and they set up the perfect time slot to do it. You don't want to rush the developing feud between Roman and Rock if there is one. But like I've mentioned how this story has been played out a bit, Roman's getting a little too big for his britches, wouldn't she say? He's had some family problems throughout this past year. He's had to face Jimmy and Jey Uso. He's had to, confront and face Sami Zayn numerous times of this year. Jay's ran off to Raw, and if you are the leader of, a family such as this one, I don't think you'd allow, this to get out of hand. Lately, I've also seen Roman Reigns only about his success. When it comes down to family, it does not mean nothing. He's not trying to pivot Jimmy or Solo Sikoa to win tag team titles. Then he's not pivoting Jimmy or Solo to go after Austin Theory to win United States Championship. If you are a leader who has obtained titles, you'd kind of want to encourage your teammates or your followers that, hey, my goal is your goal. If I can win championships, you can win championships. Just because the Usos lost the tag team titles at WrestleMania doesn't mean that should be the end of their run. What about Solo Sikoa? Is Roman Reigns scared of Solo Sikoa? Is Roman Reigns petrified of what Solo is capable of? Therefore, you keep him in the back of your pocket under a dog leash and chain just so that you can use him because you know that if you let him free, he may turn against you. And if you have him turn against you, he may actually be able to beat you. So Solo Sikoa could be on the table. But that's, yet again, we may or may not have found Roman Reigns' opponent for WrestleMania this year. There's a lot of questions as we begin this year with Roman Reigns of what could possibly come down. I will be honest, 2023 was not a incredible year for Roman Reigns in the Bloodline. Roman's only had 11 matches. He lost 2 of them last year, both in tag matches. And, he hasn't really, he's dealt with his family drama. Is he still on the top of the food chain? Yes. Because I still don't know if there's anyone out there right now that can dethrone him, nonetheless beat him in a one-on-one competition. Think about that. Roman Reigns is so dominant right now. There's not a single soul in that locker room that can dethrone him, that can pin him, other than his family. So as we ask ourselves the question about with the Rock return on Monday, was this a one and done deal? Are we expected to see The Rock appear later on down the road as we get closer to WrestleMania? Is this a possible dream match that's finally coming together that if they did and they play it out right, which they're on the path to, this would probably be the greatest. This will honestly maybe outbeat The Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania. Or The Undertaker and Triple H inside a Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania. Just think about that. If The Rock and Roman could host this dream match, for me, this is bigger than Rock and Cena at Mania. But then there's also that question of, what does that future look like for the WWE Universal Championship? And how much longer does Roman Reigns bypass in
history? He's already passed Pedro Morales. He's about to pass at the end of this month, I believe, Bruno Sammartino's for one of his title reigns, which was like 1,237 days. Then you got Hulk Hogan. You got Bruno Sammartino again. I believe you got Bob Backlund. Excuse me. So, big news coming out of Monday Night Raw. Still give credit to Jinder Mahal and what he was capable of doing. But let's not forget that this was likely with the hands, The Rock coming back. And I think we just got to figure out, is this a stunner or is this a actual up and really just easing ourselves nice into the program again. It's been 2.5 months since we last did a program. Let's take a timeout and regroup and refresh for the top of hour number 2. We'll change some directions and talk a little bit about football and baseball and see where things go. Okay. NCAA has a problem. I have a problem with NCAA. And it's about their bowl games. And it's also about the way that games are being held. And I'll explain more here coming up here in hour number 2. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Alrighty, we're back here on the throw-in. Hour number 2 begins right now. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson returns last night on Raw, which could lead to a Roman Reigns and The Rock feud as we head to WrestleMania 40, which is in Philadelphia. That was the biggest takeaway of Monday Night Raw, in my opinion, that really caught my attention. I think that's you talk about setting the table and the foundation for 2024 through the WWE, and this is an important week to do so. You know, you had NXT New Year's Revolution, that was tonight. You have what? You have it's New Year NXT New Year's Evil, that's what it's called. And you have SmackDown Revolution. I mean, and this is the time of year to get excited about wrestling if you are a wrestling fan, because you have, you know, it's been in the WWE history, you know, every year that you have the Royal Rumble coming up at the end of this month, and then you officially start the road to WrestleMania with Elimination Chamber, and then you have WrestleMania, which is really right around the corner. We'll be here before anyway. And if this feud could happen, and you know, last couple years we've been talking about it, we've been hoping, but we just haven't really seen any, you know, we've been teased about it a few times. Therefore, do we talk about it because I guess, you know, we got another tease from The Rock, and is that all it is, or is there more to it? So as it progresses, I hope it's true, because that would be a phenomenal ending to, because that would set up our entire 3 months of conversation of WWE talk. It'll be nothing but Roman and The Rock and all the possibilities and scenarios that could go down. And I got many takes that I could share with you. So I will talk a little bit more about WWE and Monday Night Raw and what happened and leading into SmackDown later this week and so forth. But I have an issue with NCAA football, particularly inside their bowl games. I was watching Georgia and Florida State, which both of my next 2 segments and takes are going to lead right into this game. Okay. We'll have all week to talk about how Michigan beat Alabama because Nick Saban, I think, probably made one of the worst play calls in his professional history, coaching career. But, you know, we could talk about Washington and Michigan and that championship game later on this week. We got time to talk about that. But I think we have to really address the elephant in the room about these bowl games. And the simple fact is that 98% of these bowl games are meaningless. And I understand. You talk about these bowl games bringing in revenue, and I get that. But the way that Georgia beat Florida State was absolutely absurd, ridiculous, downright just terrible. And let me give you this. My best take on this is, let's go flat out and say, NCAA needs to change the dynamic of how players are being able to choose when and where they get to play. If you're asking me today, there was too many players and in this Georgia and Florida State game, at least for representing Florida State, that decided to opt out of playing this bowl game for the simple reason of one of three. They were injured, they were jumping onto the transfer portal and ready to get out of Florida State, or they were leaving college football to join the NFL. Now, I have no issue with any of them three. It's the concept that NCAA allows the football players to make the decision as when they consider the season done at the end of November, December, when they play the last game of the season. I really think NCAA needs to look into this matter and say, listen, if you are elected to play in a bowl game, then you need to stay committed. As a matter of fact, nobody should be touching a transfer. No one should be given the ability to opt out of anything. And, in the decision of being transferred or going to the NFL until the college football championship games are completed. I'm going to be a bit more satisfied next year when college football playoff advances from its stupid 4-team rule to a 12-team format. That then maybe gives an extra 8 teams an opportunity to win college football championship. And I'm still not even going to be completely satisfied when that comes around, because I don't think there's a fair opportunity among the teams who actually deserve to be in there. There's an argument saying that Ohio State should have and probably could have been in there, to being able to at least have a more variety of range of teams being able to represent. But you have to give a bit more meaningful scenarios to these bowl games, especially when they're just so random. Yes, like I said, it's about, NCAA is about the money. It's about the location. It's about what bowl game is which. It's about how many people are going to view it, where it's located at, so make sure you want to get it sold out. And I get that. But it doesn't make sense if a team is going to finish off their season and two-thirds of their starters are either out because of injury, hitting the transfer portal, so they're opting out of the game so that they don't, so they can go make their claim to the next college team they decide to play for, or they're hitting the NFL draft, so they're opting out so they don't risk injury. When none of that should be decided, if you do not allow a transfer or the opt-out decision to be made until after the college football championship is completed, and then the only reason that players should not be playing for their team that's in a bowl game is due to injury, then you would see much more compelling games. Is there other solutions on making these games more interesting? Because I don't think it's the competitiveness or the interest of these players that they don't want to play, but it's the, when you have from college to pros, and just like that, I think something down the line has to be done. And I think it needs to be taken very seriously, because the outcome of Florida State and Georgia's game, 63-3 was a bit ridiculous. And you maybe then question, well, why did Georgia not make it to college football playoffs? Now we're on this topic of these bowl games. And it leads me into this next topic, because we're talking about Georgia and Florida State's game, 63-3. And it's not just about the bowl games. It's about any game. Where's the mercy rule? Where's the clock management? How come NCAA doesn't have any of that? You rarely see a blowout game in the NFL. And if you do, it's a rare treat to see the Miami Dolphins go up 72 points to 3, where they get shut out 59-11. Okay, but when college football teams go into schools that you know you're going to beat, you know you're just going to dismantle, they're going to go up 60, 70, 80 points. I don't care if I'm a player and I'm losing at the game by 70 points, I'm packing up in the third quarter, walking out. I'm saving myself the trouble of being humiliated in front of nationwide television and a nationwide audience, that I'm not staying for a game that I'm going to be clobbered. And yet again, I understand that there are revenue involved. That plays a huge monumental factor into a lot of the decisions on why teams play certain teams. But apparently, it was an unfair game between Georgia, who had all of their starters, because their school has an integrity and a reputation to maintain, so they keep accountability of all their players, while Florida State allows their players to hit the transfer portal and take themselves and declare themselves eligible for the draft. Therefore, you're playing with basically nothing but backup quarterbacks and backup players overall. Let me see if I can find this here real quick. I have it here. I think I have it here. I was reading something a little bit more in depth. I just don't know where I put it. So I really want to post it up for you guys. Let's see. Apparently, there we go. All right, so I was reading this, and I was trying to putting this together. This was Kirby Smart, and this is what I gotta give credit to where credit's due, because the head coach of Georgia's football team, Kirby Smart, he took the podium after the game to address it. He said, and I quote, "People need to see what happened tonight, and they need to fix it. It needs to be fixed. It's very unfortunate that they, who have a good football team and a good football program, are in a predicament or position they're in. And everybody can see their own fault. It's their own problem. Everybody can say that we had our guys and they didn't have their guys. I can listen to it all. I can listen to all of that, but college football has to decide what they want." He goes on, and Kirby goes on and says, "I know things are changing. Things are going to change next year. You know what? There's gonna still be a bowl games outside of those. People got to decide what they want and what they really want to get out of it, because it's really unfortunate for those kids on the sideline that had to play in that game and didn't have their full arsenal. It affects the entire game 100%. Before Saturday's kickoff, Florida State University was without the top 2 quarterbacks, top 2 running backs, top 2 wide receivers, a starting tight end, 3 starting defensive linemen, 2 starting linebackers, and 3 starting defensive backs. Georgia was at relatively full strength, and most of its most notable absence were due to injury. Let's count the starters: 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, that's 4, 6 with 2 receivers, 7 with the tight end, 3, that's 10 players with defensive linemen, That's 12 with 2 starting linebackers. That's 15 players from Florida State University that did not participate in that bowl game against Georgia. And then the rest of the team had to suffer because either they were shorthanded or they weren't prepared because they didn't play all year. What a shame. Something has to change. Here's my suggestion to this change. Yes, I will stand back to what I mentioned at the beginning of this segment. I believe that there needs to be some sort of decision made of when players can opt out because of the transfer portal or declaring themselves to the draft. I think that needs to be extended out to the end of the college football championship and then allow a free roam right afterwards. And that way, if a team is obligated to play in a bowl game, then they shall be able to have the players that they want to play unless they are injured. And that's it. I just think that was too much freedom for a team that's too good to lose by 60 points from Georgia. I mean, I know Georgia's good. It just doesn't seem. I just don't see Florida State ever in a regular season game losing to Georgia by 60 points nonetheless. The second thing that I'd, honestly offer to this and consider is some sort of clock management. Now, I understand that maybe the mercy rule is a little far-fetched, but when you start creeping up to 60 points, you may want to consider it because at that point, you know damn well a teammate coming back from that. Okay, we're not the Atlanta Falcons. That's far-fetched to think that a college football team could come back being down 60 points at any point of the game. But I do think maybe clock management in regards to a running clock, maybe a shorten of a quarter, depending on what the lead is by a certain time, to kind of ease in, the inevitable of, hey, your team's getting blown out. We're just going to run out the clock. I remember playing high school football. And I remember if we were down by like 4 touchdowns by the fourth quarter, guess what? They're running that clock no matter if it's a first down, touchdown, incomplete pass. You just had 12 minutes to get across the field. And that was that. And maybe college football should consider it's not taking a whole lot away from what the game is. And it actually still completes the game, just at a much faster pace. So you're not sugarcoating. Maybe take all the timeouts away. I don't know. But NCAA has to be a bit smarter than where they're at now, or else you're going to start losing bowl games. And that's where the main moneymaker is. All right. Week number 18 is coming up here this weekend. Cincinnati Bengals is out. Baltimore Ravens clinch the number 1 seed. The Cleveland Browns are back in the playoffs. Steelers, once again, avoiding a losing season. But where does AFC and NFC scenarios in the bracket breaks down? We will break that down coming up here in our next segment. You're listening to The Throne on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
All right, let's get back into the conversation. But before we do so, we want to give a couple big shout outs. Again, hour number 2 is given to you thanks to StreamYard Studios, where you can create your podcast, videos, host interviews, and even conduct interviews and much more. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Epidemic Sound, discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack, and I don't know, I'm getting there. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. All of our new commercial breaks, videos, packages were created by Canva. Canva has the vast, wide availabilities of creating presentations, videos, documents, much more. Check out what they have to offer at canva.com. All right, so it's been a disappointing year for the Cincinnati Bengals as they officially been eliminated from the postseason thanks to losing to the Kansas City Chiefs on the road this past weekend. But the AFC North, it remains dominant. I mean, the only thing that I would say that we'll look forward to to end off the season as a positive note for the Bengals. Okay, where they will finish off their season at home against the Cleveland Browns this weekend at Paycor Stadium. So if you are going to the game, if you're watching the game, if you still have a little bit of hope and faith, okay, of whatever could possibly be, I'm pretty sure they're eliminated. And we will talk about that here in a second. Finishing off the year 9-7 is, even though you're in last place and you're you would be 1-5 in conference play, would be a lot better than finishing off 8-9. Especially out of a team that was expected to be in the postseason this year. And the struggles just kept on, piling up week after week after week. And to be honest, if you want to ask me where I think the Bengals went wrong at, I don't think Joe Burrow was ever 100% healthy come opening week. And this could be the argument heading into the off season. We could play the whole what if game. And let's play it for a second. What if Joe Burrow was not healthy? Why did we start him against the Cleveland Browns? Why did we not give him another week when we know statistically Joe Burrow performs crappy, not only against the Browns, but in Cleveland? Why couldn't we give Joe Burrow an extra week off and use Jake Browning? If we would have lost, it was no harm, no foul. I'd rather sacrifice an L over sacrificing our quarterback for a season. My opinion. I know injuries is a big part of it, but he was banged up on and off throughout the course of the beginning of the season, and we knew there was times when Jake Browning had to step in, and why just didn't we give a little bit more trust in our secondary field as quarterback? I don't think Jamar Chase was given enough opportunities this season to make plays and to catch the ball. I think we got better at our sacks, giving up yardage, because, and I think a huge accomplishment this season was how healthy our offensive line were able to maintain throughout the course, how deep into the season. But I think we can point fingers all about where we went wrong at. We struggled from week 1 all the way up, and even when you get a glimpse of hope, heading into last weekend, the Bengals had to not only beat Kansas City, which was possible, but they had to beat Cleveland. And right now, the Bengals are 0-5 against conference play. Very frustrating. Okay, then you needed Pittsburgh to lose against either Seattle or coming up against Baltimore, which Baltimore clinched after
annihilating Miami and the Dolphins. And now they clinch number 1 seed. I don't, John Harbaugh right now, according to what he's saying in social media, that they have to play through injuries. They have to learn how to do it. They'll assess what they got in the next couple of days, and maybe some guys who really need the day off will get a day off. But realistically, you're seeing everybody out there. I'm sure Baltimore's trying to get through a week. I mean, just get through another day. And if you think about it, they do have a week off. So why rest if you don't? And Pittsburgh's trying to hold on to a postseason slot. Talking about postseason, let's take a look at the standings in the playoff picture. This is thanks to CBS Sports. Head on over to cbssports.com. So look, everything, all the news and highlights coming from in the NFL. So as of right now in the AFC, Baltimore has that number 1 seed, first round bye. It's been clinched in. They have currently a 13-3 record, followed by the Miami Dolphins, Kansas City Chiefs, Jacksonville Jaguars, and then your wild card spot, you got Cleveland Browns in 5, Buffalo Bills in 6, Indianapolis Colts in 7. Over there in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers hold down the fort in the number 1 seed, followed by the Cowboys, Lions, and Buccaneers. In the wild card, you got the Philadelphia Eagles, Los Angeles Rams, and the Green Bay Packers. As we head down to the standings, you see that Baltimore has clinched the number 1 seed. They'll be taking on Pittsburgh. They are 3-2 in divisional play. So, look out for that. Miami, who has clinched a playoff spot, will play Buffalo. We'll talk about them in a second. Kansas City, with the victory over the Bengals this past weekend, clinched the AFC West. But there's still a lot of questions coming out of Kansas City, whether or not they are turning on that switch for the playoff times. Jacksonville has yet to clinch the South, as Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans are trying to also look into. So right now, that South can be up in the air for anybody. Cleveland clinched that fifth seed in the wild card, but they clinched a wild card spot. Whether it's a 5th seed, who knows? Buffalo is looking to clinch, as well as Indianapolis Colts on the outside looking in. Houston, Pittsburgh, as well. Cincinnati, you see they're 11th right now behind Denver, has been eliminated. Like I said, the Bengals have the opportunity to finish off on a 500 season, which I think that's what we need to go into this weekend of fight. All right, let's get to the NFC. San Francisco 49ers clinch the number 1 seed as they will get the first week bye. They face the Rams. Dallas Cowboys is clinched the playoff spot, getting for a division. Detroit clinched the North. Tampa Bay is yet to clinch the South, but they hold the 4th seed. Philadelphia and the Rams have clinched a playoff spot, which leads down to to Green Bay at 8-8. Seattle, New Orleans, and Minnesota on the outside looking in. Atlanta has not yet been eliminated, but they're behind the Chicago Bears, who have. All right, so let's start off in the NFC scenarios. As you can see here, let me see if you guys can see this clearly. I'm going to take myself off the screen so you guys can see this beautifully. All right. So let's start off with the Dallas. We'll just go down the list. Dallas can clinch the NFC East Division title with a Dallas win, a Dallas tie, and a Phillies tie, or a Phillies loss. This is where it gets a bit confusing because we try to have to understand all of this, and we'll pay attention. We'll revisit this again probably tomorrow, probably Friday as well as we get closer to the time. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right, Tampa Bay's looking. They have that 4th seed. So how do they clinch an AFC South? Well, simply win, or you get tie, and then New Orleans loses or tie. But win would probably be the ideal fate for them. Dallas, a win would be an ideal fate because you don't want to put the hands in Philadelphia. And what's great, Dallas is over in Washington. Philadelphia is over in New York to face the Giants. Tampa Bay could clinch a playoff berth with a Tampa Bay tie, Seattle loss, Green Bay loss, or tie. I don't like that scenario. So it may be, hey, let's win the division because we don't know how Seattle or Green Bay are going to play. Philadelphia could clinch a title with a Philly win, Dallas loss or tie, or a Philly tie, Dallas loss. Green Bay Packers can clinch a playoff berth with a win. Simply, just win. They can tie under Seattle's loss or tie, New Orleans loss or tie, Tampa Bay loss or tie. Minnesota, they could also clinch a playoff spot if Minnesota, Seattle, or Tampa Bay or New Orleans loses all in the same time. Seattle could clinch a playoff if Seattle wins, Green Bay loses, or Seattle ties, Green Bay loses, Buccaneers, Saints lose or tie. The Saints can clinch a division title with a win and a Tampa Bay loss or a tie for New Orleans. The Saints could also clinch a playoff berth with a win and Seattle losses or Green Bay loss. Minnesota could clinch a playoff berth with them winning, Green Bay losing, Seattle losing, Tampa Bay, the Saints losing. Pretty impactful scenarios there. Let's get to the AFC here real quick. I feel like that's more interesting. Miami could clinch an AFC East division title with a Miami win. Simple as that. And they face Buffalo. So basically, whoever wins will win the AFC East. Now, if they both tie, then it goes to Miami. Jacksonville can clinch a division with a win or in the Houston tie, which, one of them is probably going to walk out as a winner. Jacksonville can clinch a playoff spot with a tie. Pittsburgh loses or ties. Pittsburgh loses, Denver loses, and Indy and Houston doesn't end in a tie. We talked about Buffalo winning to win the AFC East. Buffalo could clinch a playoff spot with a tie or a Pittsburgh loss, Jacksonville loss, or Indy and Houston ending up in a tie. So if Buffalo wants to get into the postseason, they got to win the division. Because I wouldn't bank on Indy Houston tying their game. Pittsburgh may come away with an L being on the road in Baltimore. This is where, in my opinion, it all gets brain twisted. All right, we continue. Indianapolis Colts can clinch a AFC South Division title with a win and a Jacksonville loss, or a tie and Jacksonville loss. The Colts can also clinch a playoff berth with a win. They can also tie with the Pittsburgh's loss or a tie. Houston can clinch the AFC South Division title with a Houston win, Jacksonville loss, or tie. Houston can also clinch a playoff berth with a Houston win, Jackson loss, Pittsburgh loss. So, right now, then let's read this aloud. Pittsburgh can clinch a playoff berth with a Pittsburgh win, Buffalo loss. Pittsburgh win, Jacksonville loss. Pittsburgh win, Houston and Indy tie. Pittsburgh win, ties, Jacksonville loses, Indy and Houston loses. It doesn't end in a tie. Or Jacksonville loses, Denver's wins, and Houston and Indy doesn't end in a tie. So right now on my bubble screen, that I'm thinking to myself, all right, what games can we kind of really should really pay attention to. Miami and Buffalo says a lot because they have to determine who wins the AFC East. And depending on the outcome of that game, which is, by the way, going to all be concluded Sunday night, it's a Sunday night showdown, will determine some of the other teams' fate. See, if Buffalo wins, Miami slides into the 5th or 6th seed and replaces Buffalo. Buffalo goes up to number 2, possibly 3 seed, maybe even 4. So that's a scenario clincher, something simple to determine. You're going to also want to see how Houston to Indianapolis goes because they're both 9-7. They're in 7/8 position in the wild card, and one of them wins, and they could easily both be in, possibly. Because one takes the division championship if Jacksonville loses. Jacksonville shouldn't want to lose because they're not going to. If they lose, then their season practically can be done. So a lot riding on week number 18. A lot of scenario outcomes that could potentially take place. Begin Saturday, NFL has a doubleheader. You have Pittsburgh and Baltimore as game number 1, and then you got Indy and Houston, game number 2. So AFC will be partially determined until Sunday night. And then you got the playoffs next weekend. So there you go. A lot of great stuff happening. All right, let's take the last break of the day. Come on back and give you our closing statements and whatnot. You guys are listening to the Throw One on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. So we're wrapping up bottom half of hour number 2. We're bottom half of the first episode back on this new year, and I tell you, we got to readjust. It's going to take some time. From my understanding and how this schedule may or may not work out, I'm actually very excited. I'm trying to collaborate with my brother, Ryan, who lives out in San Diego. He's interested in joining our program, and the reason, and it may, like I said, it may not work. I can't tell you. But hopefully we could work something out where he can start coming on our show, talking about wrestling, football, baseball. Yes, we'll be able to cover the Cincinnati Reds and the Bengals, but to be able to cover everything that's going on in San Diego as we open up the program tonight, talking about Coach John Quintero being relieved of his radio duties at 97.3 The Fan, and that kind of controversy that spills, and there's so many mixed emotions about that. But San Diego is one of a great sport location, and it kind of gives us a difference difference of opinion, difference of matter from a West Coast to an East Coast perspective in the world of sports. So hopefully he is expected to come tomorrow. At least that's what he said. We're working out the kinks in the middle of all of this, and if he does, I'll be able to get his take. He was actually at Monday Night Raw last night, who witnessed the return of Dwayne Johnson, who basically called out Roman Reigns, and he teased about sitting at the head of the table, and now you can't help but to think that we could see Roman and The Rock at some point this year, hopefully WrestleMania. Like I said, I threw out a crazy idea that Rock and Roman at Elimination Chamber, CM Punk wins Elimination Chamber, and then Cody Rhodes wins Elimination Chamber, and then you see Rhodes and Reigns at WrestleMania, and it comes right back to a full circle. But one of the questions we'll talk about down the road, if this is a feud that we could see happening, is this a one match feud? Is this 2 matches taking place throughout the year? Is this a 3 match feud? And if so, who is the one to go over? And if you're going to have the first match, I just can't see them having a one and done at Elimination Chamber when you could have it at Mania, which is in Philadelphia. But I could be wrong. We can definitely see this feud develop over time. Maybe this is when The Rock handles, Roman takes number 1, but then The Rock meets him at Mania and dethrones him, and then Roman takes number 2, and then you'd have to have one more to fill it out. It would potentially, I think, be bigger for Roman to win, in my opinion, but I'm getting too far ahead of myself because this could just potentially be speculations. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what they say. But we'll cover a little bit more about Raw, what happened last night, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. Rhea Ripley successfully defended her title against Zoe Stark. I tell you, it's been a very big week already in the world of sports. Feels like every beginning of every year, this is kind of, you set the tone, you set the bar of what is expected to happen in this year. And at least for Raw, at least for the WWE, the bars have been accepted, has been placed up pretty high, damn highly. And yet we haven't seen SmackDown yet what they could come. Same thing for college football. Michigan beat Alabama. We'll talk about this. Man, I just don't know what Nick Saban was thinking when he came down to a 4th and goal at first play. He tried to validate. If I could find it, I'll read it to you. He had a validation on why he was going for it on 4th down. Well, he had to go. It was a game-winning score. It was the last play of the game because they went to overtime. Michigan scored, and they had to stop Alabama. Alabama was 4th and goal on the 4-yard line, and you could have played it safe and passed it at least, but this was a pretty quick indication that they were running it because Milroe just snapped it gut when went, and that was it. And he was just stopped. There was just nobody. All the gaps were filled, and it was almost like an embarrassing play, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's kind of, unfortunately, that's kind of where I stand at that. But we'll have to see. I mean, Michigan will go on and take on Washington, which I think, both college football semifinal games was played fairly rarely. Well, I liked both of them, although I didn't watch the second one as much. I kind of just tuned in and out. And now we just wait to see them play next Monday, which would be a sight to watch. And I'm going to go out there and say I think it's Michigan's year. So unless something really goes abruptly wrong, Michigan should walk away with this one. And then we could get into the conversation about Jim Harbaugh and what he's going to do after he's done with the season. But hey, I know it's a white background. Man, I'm not used to it. I actually, back in October, I moved, before my son was born, I moved my desk area back to my bedroom. And I was thinking I was going to go out there for a while. But as we learned, he's getting too big for his bassinet. So we have a pack and play that has been transversed into a crib setting that has actually replaced where my desk used to be at. And one of the configurations why we're putting it out here is because we have, so that I'm not interrupting them while they're trying to sleep at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So the only downside of this is that I have my daughters that sleep out here in a living room on air mattresses that would normally fall asleep on the couch watching movies, but they're going to have to get to enjoy the lovely way of me going to sleep to my voice. And so they're going to have to get used to that, and we'll see how that goes. But a late night sports talk is kind of where we're at right now in our program. And unfortunately, it's not unfortunate. I think it's a new adjustment for me because I'm used to covering all these sports and the games and the predictions and whatnot before the games happen. And now when we're talking about it, a lot of these games are actually going to, still happen late at night, especially when we get to baseball. We'll be talking about it and the Reds will be done playing, or they'll be on the East Coast playing. I like to talk about it beforehand, but unfortunately this is with the hand that we're dealing ourselves at this moment, which isn't bad. I'll get more stuff up in the back, probably working on that tomorrow. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you haven't done so. If you missed tonight's episode, you can always go back and watch it. We will be downloading and uploading this episode to all of our audio platforms, thanks to Spreaker.com. So if you have Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, anywhere you get your audio, basically, check us out at The Throw-In. And you could always check us out on our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com, where you can check out all of our latest videos, audios, interviews, blogs, upcoming news from our channel. That's our number one go-to site. So check out our website. Be sure to subscribe so you get all those notifications at hand. And you don't want to miss it. Yeah, I'm excited. We're back with another. The only thing is trying to probably stay awake. But definitely a different dynamic, I tell you, because we want to adjust and adapt. And we're probably going to see a bit more of a laid back show that still has its functions of wanting to coordinate, but we'll just see where the conversation takes us. Maybe we'll, look at things ahead of time. I know at the beginning of the year, I'll tell you this, at the beginning of the year, you got a lot of things, a lot of conversations, like the end of 2023 awards and whatnot. So we'll talk about all that and more. All right, that's it for our program. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, you guys, my name is Justin. This is The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk Show's YouTube channel. Take care.